This is one of those Sundays where next week the church is either going to be full or empty. Okay? We're going through 1 Peter. I have to teach what's there. Okay? This is a tough one. It's going to be tougher for some of you, maybe more than others. Can you imagine if you had walked the earth the time that Jesus was here? And Jesus would have come up to you and asked you to be one of his disciples? What an honor. How many of you would have just said yes to be his disciple? Well, not everybody. Not everybody. Jesus asks us today to be his disciple. But boy, there was a cost. It wasn't just like, oh wow, that'd be fun. That'd be a fun thing. I'll follow Jesus. I'll go wherever you go, Jesus. This ought to be fun. It was not. It was life-changing. It was death-changing. But I don't know that I'd use the word fun. He calls us today to be his disciples. Wonder how many of us today say, yes, take me, Jesus. There's a cost. Let's go. We're going to look at 1 Peter chapter 4. We'll start with verse 12 through 16. This is where we're going through today in 1 Peter. So let's take a look at it. Dear friends, we're his friends, we're your friends. Do not be surprised at the painful trial you are suffering, as though something strange were happening to you. But rejoice that you participate in the sufferings of Christ, so that you may be overjoyed when his glory is revealed. If you are insulted because of the name of Christ, you are blessed, for the Spirit of glory and of God rests on you. If you suffer, it should not be as a murderer or a thief or any other kind of criminal, or even as a meddler. However, if you suffer as a Christian, do not be ashamed, but praise God that you bear that name. We don't suffer. We don't suffer. We think we do. I was talking to Liz earlier this morning because she had a rough night the other night coming home from the meeting and realizing that she's probably not going to have a little girl anymore. And that's suffer. That's suffering. But I told Liz, Jesus hasn't asked you to give your life yet. Because the early disciples, that's exactly what he did. That's what he did. And so he's telling all the other disciples out there, don't be surprised that you're suffering. That's part of being a Christian. That's part of being a Christian. Your reward is not in this life. Your reward is not in this life. It's in the next life. How much do we suffer? Let's take a look at the early disciples just a little bit to see how much they suffered. Acts 5:40 and 42. This is Peter now. This is Peter himself now that's talking about Jesus. Okay? His speech persuaded them. They called the apostles in and had them flogged. Then they ordered them not to speak in the name of Jesus and let them go. Now, the apostles left the Sanhedrin rejoicing because they had been counted worthy of suffering disgrace for the name. Rejoicing. Day after day in the temple courts from house to house, they never stopped teaching and proclaiming the good news that Jesus is the Christ. Now, I just want you to think about this now. Here's the disciples talking about Jesus, and as a result of just talking about Jesus, they were flogged. Now, you heard me share before about what flogging was like, but it was different when it was done by the Romans like Jesus had done to him, because they were professionals and it was near death. When the Jews did it, it was just a punishment. But it was still 39 lashes. It was still 39 lashes. I don't know if any of you saw the movie 12 Years a Slave, where it shows the young lady in there that was being beaten with a whip. That's not fun. That's not fun. Imagine if you knew that as a result of talking about Jesus, as a result of your faith, you were going to be lashed today when you got out of church. Would you even have showed up this morning? My guess is if you knew you were going to be lashed, I don't know how many people would really be sitting here this morning. If you knew that was the result. That was their result, and they rejoiced. Holy smokes. They're rejoicing as a result of it because they were suffering for their Jesus. Because Jesus meant that much to them. They were true disciples, true apostles. How good of disciples, apostles are we? Here's another one, Stephen. Let's look at Acts chapter 7. The whole chapter of 6 is Stephen talking about Jesus. The whole chapter is him talking about Jesus. And then most of 7. And then finally at the end of 7 it says, when they heard this, they were furious and gnashed their teeth at him. It'd be like me talking about Jesus and some people out there just furious. Some of you may be when this is over with this morning. You're just furious with me. But Stephen, full of the Holy Spirit, looked up to heaven and saw the glory of God and Jesus standing at the right hand of God. He had his eyes on Jesus. Look, he said, I see heaven open and the Son of Man standing at the right hand of God. At this they covered their ears, and yelling at the top of their voices, they all rushed at him, dragged him out of the city, and began to stone him. Stoning is a death penalty. Meanwhile, the witnesses laid their clothes at the feet of a young man named Saul. While they were stoning him, Stephen prayed, Lord Jesus, receive my spirit. Then he fell on his knees, cried out, Lord, do not hold this sin against them. When he said this, he died. Just like Jesus when he was on the cross. Don't hold this against them. Stephen, copying his Jesus, saying, don't hold this against them. Now, if you knew that you were going to get whipped as a result of going out there, would you say, hey, don't hold this against them. I'm rejoicing. I get to do this for Jesus. Or would you be calling on the guys that we have in here? Like Rick Winters and Albert and Nick and some of the bad dudes in here. It's like, back me up, dude, back me up. You got my back? You got my back? I don't want a whooping. I don't want to be stoned. Don't worry, brother. We got you. We got you. It's kind of like they willingly did it. Let's look at Paul now. 2 Corinthians chapter 11. This is Paul. Are they servants of Christ? Are you servants of Christ? I am out of my mind to talk like this, he says. I am more. I'm more than a servant. He said, I have worked much harder than everybody else. I've been in prison more frequently, been flogged more severely, and been exposed to death again and again. 5 times I received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. 5 times he was lashed. 3 times I was beaten with rods. That's even worse than the lashing. Once I was stoned. Stoned is a death penalty. He survived it. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea. I'm sure I don't know if they're on the sea, there's no sharks, but he's out there in the open sea. And a day, and I have been constantly on the move. I have been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my own countrymen, in danger from Gentiles, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, and in danger from false brothers. And then I like this last one. I have labored and toiled and have often gone without sleep. I have known hunger and thirst and have often gone without food. I have been cold and naked. Besides everything else, I face daily the pressure of my concern for all the churches. Who wants to be Paul? Who wants to be Paul? We think we suffer. We think we suffer as a result of being a Christian. Holy smoke. Thank goodness Jesus doesn't ask of us today what he asked the first disciples. I don't think there'd be too many Christians today. I don't think 70% of the United States would profess to be a Christian then. I doubt that. I doubt that. But what does it mean to us? What does it mean to us? Look at John 15, 12, and 14, what Jesus says here. Jesus says, my command is this, love each other as I love you. Greater love has no one than this, that he lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. No greater love than to lay down your life. That's what the disciples did. Every one of the apostles died a horrendous death. They were beheaded, some were beheaded, some were stoned, some were drugged by horses, some were split apart by horses, some were boiled in hot oil. The only one that did was the Apostle John, that he exiled to an island because he wanted him to write the book of Revelation. All the other disciples, Peter hung upside down on a cross as his wife was watching him. Every disciple died a horrendous death. What are we willing to do? What are we willing to do as being a Christian? Now, I could go off on a lot of different directions here. A lot of different directions, but I'm gonna go off on just one direction. And I hope you got ears to hear this now, okay? Matthew 10, 32 and 39, Jesus tells us this. Matthew 10, 32 through 39. Whoever acknowledges before men, I will acknowledge before my Father in heaven. Whoever's willing to talk about Jesus, acknowledging him is willing to talk about him. But whoever disowns me before men, I will disown him before my Father in heaven. If you're afraid to talk about Jesus, then don't look at him when you meet him. Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. Now listen to this. Jesus is talking now about, I didn't come to bring peace. I came to bring a sword. This is what's going to happen as a result of you being a Christian. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be members of his own household. Whoa. Anyone who loves his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves his son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And anyone who does not take his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Those are tough words. Those are tough words. What he's saying is, in your own household, I did not come to bring unity. There's going to be friction. There's going to be children separated from their parents separated from the children as a result of my name, as a result of following me. One of them is going to want to follow me, and the other one doesn't want to. And then there's going to be friction in that household. Jesus warned us about that. We'll talk about this. Because what Jesus is saying is he wants us to put him against everybody. Against everybody. Even your own spouse. Jesus needs to come first. You need to be willing to give your life for Jesus. Are you willing to do this? No, this is where I want to go off on. Jesus told us that he was going to build his church. He said, I'm going to build my church, and it's going to last forever. That's why I'm dying. I'm dying for my church. This is his church. Where other believers get together, that's his church. And that's where his spirit is showing in church. Church is important. I haven't met a Christian yet that can stay strong without being a part of a church. Many try. Many say, I don't need church. I don't need church. I see them over and over and over, and their faith does not go up. It goes down. There's no such thing as your faith staying like this. It either has to be going up or it goes down. If you're not a part of a family, it ends up going down. I've not seen one exception to that rule yet. You can talk about your own life, the times that you quit going to church. Did your faith go up? No, it went down. Jesus knew that, and so he said, I'm going to build this church so that you can grow in your faith. How important important is church to us Christians? Now, I'm going to just share something now. Most Sundays when I come to church and I go past the park over there, it is just filled with people playing sports. Filled with people playing sports on Sunday morning. That's when most sports is on. Used to be Saturdays, now it's Sunday mornings. That's when most sports is. I can guarantee you there are more than likely people that are not here this morning because they have children involved in sports. How did that happen? It happened because Christians never said anything. Christians never took a stand. 70% of the United States profess to be Christians. They never took a stand on this. They didn't say, no, I'm not signing my kid up on a Sunday. We go to church. They just willingly signed their kids up on Sundays and chose sports over church. Would the early disciples have done that? Would they have done that? Would they have chosen? Most of you, you can vouch for this, most races are on Sundays now, not on Saturdays. That's why I was glad to hear that your race is on a Saturday. Most races are on Sundays. All kinds of Christians race in them. Now, I'm not talking about once or one. I'm not talking that that's bad. I'm not talking about, but I'm talking about when you sign up for something knowing that you're going to be absent now from church for months because you committed yourself, and then they make this statement, well, we're committed to the team is counting on us. Well, your vision team is counting on you too. When you're not here, you're missed. There are people that are not here that are severely missed. Oh, I haven't seen him in a few weeks. I haven't seen him in a few weeks. We miss you. We miss you. Do you think the Spirit shows up here or in the baseball diamonds? Which one were the early disciples have picked? Oh, we're playing sports. Jesus, sorry. Sorry, we signed up for the baseball team. No, it wasn't even a thought. It wasn't even a thought. Now, it'd be different if you were involved in that because you were sharing Jesus, then I'd say pick that first. Pick that first. If your intent is to get on that team so you can tell them about Jesus and then invite them to church, then I'd say, man, go for it. That is important. But if it's just to play sports, what kind of a disciple are you? What kind of a disciple are you? Let me just share a story. My family used to hate this because I picked church over sports every time. And I took a lot of abuse for that. I had one son that you hear about that was a good athlete. He was playing basketball at Gar High School. And it was under the freshman team, so the games were early, but on Wednesday nights, that was youth night. That was church. He knew, and so did the coach, knew that at a certain time, I don't care what the score was, I don't care how important he was to the game, he's leaving. And if you don't like it, then he's off the team. And he knew that. And I remember one game they were playing Artesia High School, and Ed O'Bannon was on the team. How many of you remember Ed O'Bannon? Yeah. And Aaron was playing against him. Well, he had about this much of a chance against Ed O'Bannon. Every time he went up for a shot, it got blocked, and the ball would come through the net back on his head. So he knew that he was going to have to leave at a certain time, so he just went all out and just elbowed him and everything that he could and just fouled out of the game because he knew he was never going to improve anyway. Now the head coach was a Christian. I'm not going to give you his name because he was under me when I was at another church over here in Cerritos, Artesia area. And he had a hard time with this. And he would take me aside to talk to me about it. Like, the team was counting on Aaron. And I would tell him, so's the youth group. So's the youth group counting on him. They're counting on me. They're counting on me to be there. I'm leading it. I choose church. And so are my kids. Do you think they like that? You don't know the abuse that I took for that. Remember where it said I came to separate? They couldn't understand. I don't know how many talks we had about that. My wife would just, even though she never went to the games, she was just going, you're nuts. You're nuts. No wonder your kids don't like you. They did. She just was getting back at me. But they knew what I stood for. They knew what I stood for. What do you stand for? What do you stand for? Now, this is what I'm afraid of. How many of you have kids that go to Valley Christian? Just one? They never, when my son went there, when my kids finally did go to Valley Christian, they have Wednesday night as youth night, and there's no sports on Wednesday nights, and there's very little homework on Wednesday nights, because they know that the youth are supposed to go to youth groups, to church. I can tell you already, it's just a matter of time till that ends. Because the youth aren't going to youth groups anyway. And parents and youth are not making a case against it. Why can't we have basketball on Wednesday night? My kid doesn't go to church anyway. Let's just have games on Wednesday nights. It's just a matter of time. So even the Christian schools start doing it. Jesus doesn't come first. Jesus doesn't come first. He doesn't come first with the parents, and if it doesn't come first with the parents, then guess what the kids do? They follow. They follow. How important is Jesus to you? How important is he to you? What are you going to choose first? What if Super Bowl Sunday was at 10 o'clock?
Ouch.
And Green Bay was in there against San Francisco. No, I can't be. Because they're in the same division. But Green Bay was in there against Denver. Well, everybody wants to see that game. I wonder how many would show up at church. I wonder how many would show up at church.
Thank God for DVR.
No, trust me, the diehards want to watch it live. I'm just here to tell you, many of us would choose the Super Bowl. Many of us would choose the Super Bowl. What if you had family coming in out of town, and they came up Sunday morning, they were all excited because they're going to Disneyland and they want to be there when it first opens, and you're driving because they don't know how to get there. And you tell them, oh no, you're going to have to wait, you're going to go to church. Oh, wait a minute, it takes all day to go. What time do you get home back? Oh, around 12:30. Oh, we're not going to get there until 1:30. It's kind of, oh, we're not going to. What's your rest of your family going to say? Come on, Dad, Mom, you can go to church any Sunday. Come on, we're going to Disneyland. Your family it's counting on you. Which one do you choose? Which one do you choose? See, Jesus doesn't ask us to suffer very much as a Christian. He really doesn't. I don't suffer very much for being a Christian. Hardly any at all. In fact, a lot of times you're almost put up a little bit on a pedestal even. But how much are you willing to give Jesus? How much are you willing to give him? Are you willing to give him all of you? Because that's what he wants. He don't want a part of you. He wants all of you. He says, you even have to put me ahead of your wife and your husband. You have to put me ahead of your son and your daughter. You have to put me ahead of your mom and your dad. You have to put me ahead of your boyfriend and your girlfriend. You have to put me ahead of your best friends. You have to do that, Jesus said, or you're not worthy to be my disciple. Whoa. Whoa. Imagine having a girlfriend, and it's your 1-year anniversary of dating, and she's expecting you now to take her to Disneyland Sunday morning. And you tell her, oh, I can't, I gotta go to church. Oh, church more important than me? Yes. What? What?
I can't imagine any guy saying that.
I know. But what would Jesus want? What would Jesus want? What would Jesus want? Would he want you to pick Disneyland, or would he want you to pick his church?
I've had that happen to me. I chose to come to church as opposed to going to work. I said I have to go to church first, and then I go to work after church. And then with my boyfriend, he's like, well, why do you got to go to church? I said, because I have to go. And I choose church over everything.
Let me just share. We had some, Mary got here this morning. We had some Ukrainians that worked for us. They were our tile layers. They were from Oregon, and they would travel all over the United States with us to do our work. They were really good. Took pride in the work. But they were Seventh-day Adventists. And they would not work on Saturdays. And I don't know how many times I get a call from my supervisor saying, hey, you need to talk to, they're not willing to lay tile today. We have to get this done today. We're turning the room over tomorrow. And they won't do it. I'm going to fire them if they don't. They didn't care. Fire me. Fire me. I'm not working on Saturday.
They go to church twice on Sundays, Tuesdays,
Mm-hmm. Yep, that was the Dutch thing, wasn't it? In fact, you didn't even go to a restaurant because you were causing somebody else to work. Now, there's extremes, of course. I'm not sure, because I remember the pastor over there would go have pizza over in Orange County. He was afraid to be seen here in the Long Beach area. Somebody in my church would see him. So I realize there's extremes to it all. But my gosh, these Seventh-day Adventists are standing up for their faith. How much do we stand up for our faith? No, we're critical even of Jehovah's Witnesses that come to our door and Mormons that come to our door to share the Jesus with us. And we slam the door in their face. And they get door after door slammed in their face, and they keep on keeping on. If we were to go out and hand flyers in our neighborhood, which we're talking about doing here pretty soon, because of Labor Day, we know that we can meet here, and we go and hand out flyers, and imagine if you handed out 5 flyers, and they looked like, get out of here, and they slammed the door. After 5 doors slamming, would you kind of just say, screw this, I'm going home. I don't need this. You'd quit. You'd quit. They don't. They don't. In fact, Mormons, I think it's Monday night, that's family night. That's family night. No TV, no sports, that's family night. And the kids know that that's family night. They can't sign up for a sport where there's a game on Monday night because that's family night. Put us to shame. What are you willing to do? What are you willing to do to stand up for Jesus? Let's look again at Matthew chapter 10. Matthew chapter 10. Let's just look again, verse 32 to 39. Whoever acknowledges me before men, I will also acknowledge him before my Father in heaven. If you're willing to keep talking about Jesus, Jesus says, I'll acknowledge you. But whoever disowns me before men, I'll disown him before my Father in heaven. I don't talk about Jesus, it's too much abuse. I don't talk about it in my family, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. Do not suppose that I've come to bring peace on the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his own father, a daughter against her own mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. That's easy anyway, isn't it? A man's enemies will be members of his own household. You choose Jesus, Just like Liz just said. Her boyfriend doesn't go to church. So for her, it's kind of like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Anyone who loves his father and mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves sports more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves his son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves Disneyland or Knott's Berry Farm more than me is not worthy of me. And anyone who does not take up his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Liz, you have to pick that cross up every day, knowing that your daughter probably is not coming back again. Jesus said, if you're not willing to carry that cross, then you're not worthy to be his disciple. That's what he's saying right here. You've got to pick that up every day. Follow me. Mary Victor, same thing for you guys. Same thing for you guys. You can just slam the system, talk about it, or you can just pick up that cross and follow Jesus. Because if you're not willing to do that, then you're not worthy. You're not worthy to be my disciple. You're not worthy to be my disciple. You can't choose Jesus first over everything. Everything. Then you're not worthy to be his disciple. These are not my words, people. That's Jesus talking, not me. Okay? That's not me talking. That's Jesus talking. That's Jesus talking. Now, it's easier to do when you have the Spirit. Because when you have the Spirit, you have to love. You're capable of loving now. When you have the Spirit, Jesus is a part of you. Jesus is a part of you, so it's a whole lot easier. I'll guarantee you, for the Presinos, if they would have decided to stop using alcohol without being a Christian, it would have been a whole lot tougher. But when the Spirit's a part of you, it's a whole lot easier. So when the Spirit's a part of you, you should be in love with Jesus. You should be in love. When you sing those songs that we just sang, two of my favorite songs, when you sing those songs, it's just kind of like when you are at the feet of Jesus. You're at the feet of Jesus. How important is Jesus to you? How important is he to you? Now, I'm not saying the people that are missing, but why are they missing? Why do you miss? Why do you miss? Because you have other things more important to do. You have to tell me that. Tell Jesus that. Tell Jesus that next time. Jesus, just want you to know, I got something more important this morning than your people, than your church, than my church. It's more important. I went out last night, had a little too much to drink, and I got a hangover, and I didn't get any sleep. So I'll see you next week, Jesus. My family's out of town and they want to go to Disneyland. My family's really important. See you next week, Jesus. It's my kid's birthday. We gotta decorate, we gotta set everything up. See you next week, Jesus.
That was me last week.
Uh-oh. I knew I was going to step on somebody's toes. I knew I was going to. I've done that, Melissa. I've done that many times. You've done it? Many. I'm not pointing a finger. I have done that many. I have missed church years in a row. Not one Sunday. Years in a row. Gosh, I got 2 hotels, Jesus. For shame. I'm out of town. I'm out of town. Oh, I had every reason, and there were some that were really good to me. And where did my faith go? How important is Jesus to you? Of course, Jesus about this. It says at the end of the world, every knee is going to bow before Jesus. Christians and non-Christians alike. When you see the glory of Jesus, you're going to fall down on your knees before him. He's going to be that glorious. When you are in the presence of God, it is going to be out of this world. The little bit of sacrifice we have to make now is nothing in comparison to that. Is Jesus going to be able to say to you, well done, my good faithful servant. Well done. Oh, that's what I wanted to say to me. What do you want him to say to you? If you have any obstacles between you and Jesus, I don't care what it is. If you have any obstacles between you and Jesus, boy, talk to him about it. Don't talk to me. Talk to him about it. Fred, I'm going to ask if we can get a couple prayer warriors, because maybe you want to talk to a prayer warrior. Who's two of my prayer warriors that are willing to pray with people if they want prayer? Anybody? Do I have any? Okay, all right. Claudia, if you want to go to, or Dave, you can go to this side, and then Claudia, if you want to go to that side over there. If you, and then Shirley's over there also. Or me, yeah, just make it a little bit easier if you could be on that. If you want to come to the cross, talk to Jesus, but if you want to share it with somebody, because sometimes that's important, to just say, would you pray with me? I don't know how to pray. Would you pray for me? And that's what these people are for. Go to them for prayer, come to Jesus, but what stands between you and Jesus? Whatever it is, get rid of it. It ain't